Fulham against Manchester United, and I think the story here is simple. Manchester United have brought in a new manager, Ruben Amorim, and it feels like nothing has changed. He last week himself said this is the worst Manchester United team that he's seen. Why has he said that?
Because he's just letting everyone know. And I know that there's a couple people on the panel that want to, not hammer Amorim, but want to dig the knife in. And I'm here to defend him. I understand that it's incumbent on you as a manager to get results. And he hasn't done that. It's been very, very poor. Apart from the big games. Apart from away at City, away at Arsenal, away at Liverpool. Got results in all those games. But in the home games against Bournemouth, the home game against Brighton, even the home game against Southampton, which they won, they were very, very poor. And so I get why there's some United fans, some people in the media that want to criticise Amorim because he needs to get results. But this club's doing a mess for a while, and they're trying to undo that mess right now. Ineos trying to undo that. I don't even know if Ineos are fit for purpose, but that's a completely different conversation. But from Amorim's point of view, he's making everybody completely aware that it's a long, long process. Ralph Rangnick 2-3 years ago came out and said it's going to be open heart surgery at this football club. There are so many people in positions that they shouldn't have been in when Ineos came in, and now they're trying to undo that whilst also being restricted by PSR. And as a result of that, they've got a squad that's not fit for purpose. They've got a squad that are very, very gone.
No.
He's ready. He's locked and loaded.
They've got a squad that is just not good enough. And I look at Man United, and I don't think it's even a lack of effort. I think there's just lack of quality right now, and that's as a result of poor squad building.
That's the one point I really disagree. I think there's a huge lack of effort. You were very excited, both of you were very excited when Amorim came in because he had a nice coat, but I couldn't saw past the Moncler, and I said there are just much bigger issues at Manchester United. It doesn't matter which manager came in. Ancelotti could have come in, Guardiola could have come in, and the performances would have been relatively similar. I said it last week, and I really wholeheartedly believe that. I think the vast majority of players on that team sheet, the vast majority of Manchester United players are playing for a paycheck. I think hardly any of them care that much about the club. I think they're all talented players. It's £1 billion squad. They should all be playing better than they are playing. And it doesn't really make any sense to accuse the manager and say that it's his shortcomings. It can't be. A lot of these players and a lot of other Manchester United players who also cost upwards of £100 million were managed by the great Jose Mourinho, by Ten Hag, by Louis van Gaal, who was one of the best managers in the world at one point, playing an incredible style of football. Ralph Rangnick came into the football club as an interim manager, told everyone what the problems were. They were not addressed, and they are still lingering here. Ralph Rangnick, by the way, also addressed the fact that the wage structure at the club was a massive issue, which meant that players were joining for the wrong reasons. And that's exactly what you're seeing now. There's no reason that these players cannot be performing better than they are. And I think to put it on the manager just completely avoids the actual issues, which are the players on the pitch probably don't want to be playing for the club. And the people at the background, you can talk about the Glazers all you want. Ineos have been an absolute shower of you-know-what since they've come in. There's absolutely no improvement there whatsoever. So much, much, much bigger problems at Manchester United than Amorim.
I agree, but I think there is also a job that needs to be done by the manager on the pitch. And quite frankly, like the Southampton game, I think is a great example of this. And everyone knows that I was backing Amorim. One, he had a nice coat. He's got good facial hair. He's a good-looking guy. And he's got a good sense of football. Yeah. That's why I like the guy. But unfortunately, what I'm seeing in these games against Southampton, who are the worst team in the league, and they may go down with a record points total worse than Derby. So, like, Manchester United getting dominated by that team is embarrassing. And it's happened twice this season, by the way. If you remember, the first game when Cameron Archer missed a pen, and that turned the tide. For me, as a manager, I think he's just scared at the moment. Mazraoui and Dallo playing at wing-back. At Sporting, he used to play two actual wingers out there. I think he's at this point where he's going, I don't want to concede goals, but I also don't really want to try to go gung-ho and score goals. This halfway house business, I think as a top manager, has to stop.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's incumbent on managers to get results, and he's not got results. I just look at this Manchester United team, and it's just a mess. And one thing that he does need to do is become a little bit more adaptable. Of course, managers have philosophies that they are entrenched in. They want to communicate to the players, and if they deter from that, then kind of dilutes their message. But when I think back to when Klopp came into Liverpool in 2015, obviously the idea of rock and roll football, but with the personnel we had at the club, he couldn't play the football he wanted, so he adapted. And in that first season, he managed those players to get to a League Cup final, to get to a Europa League final. Think back to when Arteta first came into Arsenal, and again, didn't have the players he wanted. He played the three at the back. Arsenal won the FA Cup playing three at the back. He adapted. and he used players at his disposal, like an Aubameyang, to win a trophy. I feel like he's not making best use of the players he has at his disposal. We know that he doesn't play Mazraoui right wing back. We know he doesn't want to play Dalot at left wing back. But it does get to a point where you have to figure it out. And the fact that he hasn't figured it out is a little bit worrying because the noise is starting to build. And I don't think by any stretch of your imagination that Man United will part ways with Ruben Amorim, but there's only so long that Manchester United, the institution that is Manchester United, can sit in the bottom half of the Premier League table past halfway through the season. It's unacceptable. And just seeing it visually on the league table, it just doesn't...
It looks wrong.
It looks wrong.
Yeah.
And I know that they were poor last season under Eric Ten Hag, but Paul was finishing 8th. Man United are about 10 points off 8th this season, which just tells you how bad they've been. They were poor under Ten Hag, but he did win the League Cup in his first season and finished 3rd. He did win the FA Cup in his second season. They were poor under Louis van Gaal. They won an FA Cup. They were poor under Jose Mourinho. They won a League Cup and they won a Europa League. So Man United can be poor, but they still do need to see results. And unfortunately for Amorim, he's not getting results on a consistent basis against teams that Man United should be beating. And then in this game against Fulham, they're clearly the underdogs. Fulham are clearly the favourites, and that shouldn't be the case for Manchester United side.
Also, the one thing that goes in their favour against Fulham is Fulham have won just one of their last 18 Premier League games against United. It's one of these fixtures that every single time you sit in and watch it, you'll go, Fulham are dominating, and they'll concede a random goal. And it's quite telling that Bruno Fernandes has scored 3 in the last 5 against Fulham, and I think he even assisted the Maguire goal in the loss. I think when Bruno Fernandes being this erratic character as the guy who's dragging you out against Fulham, it's probably quite telling as to how you're playing in these games.
But we also sat here before and said that if you want to move forward as a football club, Bruno Fernandes can't be the fulcrum at your club. But what you can do, you can use Bruno Fernandes this season to get results. We've seen it in the biggest games. He's a player who's got undoubted ability and quality. So you use that to the best of his ability. Play him in those number 10 positions and make him be the centre of your squad that can get you results this season. And then maybe next season you move on from him. But you touched on it. Man United earlier on in this season against Fulham got lucky, got that last minute or late Xerxes goal. They're a team that just can't get results consistently. It doesn't matter what manager it is.
But what you're talking about is you're saying that the solution for Amorim is to adjust his style of play to fit the players that are there. Yeah. But that's not how success has ever been built at a football club. That's not how you change the philosophy. Amorim is playing the football that he wants to play, that he knows how to play, and he's got the players there. He can't really buy anyone at the moment. They could, put in a few transfer bids for a couple of players, but they're not going to revamp the whole squad. So he is playing his style of football and hoping that the certain players there, who have probably all cost above 50 million quid, by the way, can actually adapt to his style of play. I think what you're expecting him to do is change his style of play to fit the players that are there. But that serves no purpose. That just moves Man United from 14th to 9th. It doesn't get them anything in the long run.
I do think that with Manchester United... Say, for example, he does change the style of play and they do go and run in the Europa League, which is a very winnable competition this year. If Spurs are favourites for a competition, then that competition is very winnable. And so I've seen managers do it in the past. I said Arteta did it in the past. Arteta beat Man City in the semi-finals and Chelsea in the final. Those are two very good sides that season. Changing the style of football. They play 3 at the back. Arteta's not a 3 at the back manager. They played very pragmatic football and made sure they played on the counter-attack using the pace of Aubameyang. I'm not asking him to change his whole philosophy. I'm asking him to tweak things to get results because Man United do need to get results.
I think also the one thing that is very true at Manchester United and has been for a few years is when managers come in, they do get put under a lot of media pressure. I think he said in his first week in the job, I haven't done this many interviews in the last 5 years at Sporting than I've done at United. There's also rumours of last week, apparently he went mad in the dressing room, broke a TV, cried, and a few players cried as well. So I think he's obviously really feeling the pressure. And considering when he came in as this slick, charming guy, he said a few things in the media that have made me go, maybe it's this job. Like, the job is just cursed because he was meant for this job.
It's the players. They're the only constant in every single manager failing at the club since Alex Ferguson is the players and the quality of players they brought in. And not only that, the motivation behind the players of why they're there. When have you really actually seen... Like, the Manchester derby is quite a good example. That was a mid-off, right? That was a huge mid-off. And United, let's be honest, got a little bit lucky that Núñez gave away that penalty. But there was no desire. There wasn't any desire from City, which I spoke about and was fuming about. There was no desire from United to win the game. They just happened to get a little bit lucky in the end. And if you've got no desire to win a huge derby game, I think... I said to you last week, didn't I? I just think they're overpaid charlatans in Man United
players. But who recruits these players? Like, is it not down to the recruitment? When, over the last 10 years, apart from Bruno Fernandes, name me a good player.
They haven't made a good sign. But the question...
But they're all players who were good before they signed. All of them are good.
So then that's where you're right in terms of questioning motivation. And that's down to the recruitment team. I compare it to my team, Chelsea. You've gone and signed young, hungry players that want to prove something. But when you're bringing in players that have maybe already proved it and are come to Manchester United for the wrong reasons, that's down to recruitment. That's down to like Klopp would never have a bad egg in his dressing room. He'd assess that before he brought him in. Who's assessing it at Manchester United? It doesn't make sense.
Okay, the one quick question I would ask then is, Amorim would have seen these set of players before he came in. There's no way he came into this job blind. There's no way he came in and said, you know what, like, I'll just do whatever you give me, I'm going to make it happen. He was doing a great job at Sporting. They were on an unbeaten run. They're going to win the Portuguese league. He was going to win more trophies. He would have had other jobs at the end of his time at Sporting. So there's no way he would have just gone, yeah, I'll go in blind. So he knows these players are going to be like this.
Well, that's where
I go. He needs to.
That is where he's culpable, because apparently they knocked on his door. Man United hierarchy knocked on his door in the summer. He said, "No, I don't want to leave." So what convinced you to leave midway through the season when your team is absolutely flying? You're flying in the Champions League as well, by the way. They beat you lot. They were one of the best teams in Europe by the time you left the football club. And you come midway through a season, that's just not ideal preparation. So what changed your motivation to not come in the summer, but then to come midway through the season? I think that's where he is culpable. But in terms of putting the blame all at his doorstep, I think there's other problems in Manchester United that needs to be addressed.
All right, let's get predictions. Kim, I'll go with you first.
Fulham almost never win against United.
After all this.
Fulham almost never win, but they have to. They just have to at the weekend. I think it'll be pretty tight, and I think United will probably go up in the game, but I think 2-1 Fulham.
Going for a 1-1 draw in this one.
Yeah, I can't see Fulham winning just because they never do against United apart from that one time.